Hey, good morning. Oh man, I'm sitting thinking this morning that I love that we get to enjoy things. God meant for us to have a really joyful life. He wouldn't have brought us out of slavery if He wanted to give us a rough life. Yes, Jesus does teach us and makes us aware that because they persecuted Him, they will persecute us. But there can be joy in that. Paul writes it all the time. Boast in his infirmities. You rejoice all the time. And I think ultimately that's a level of what the word is trying to teach us as well. Is that it's just pointing out the fact that there will be these events, these things that happen in your life and in our lives that help us grow and get better and shape and serve God in the way we're meant to and we're supposed to do it better. Especially considering we ask it all the time. I think I said recently that we know. I don't think everybody is always. I know I often am not aware exactly of what I'm asking. When you ask God to shape your heart, or give you more patience, or give you more strength, or these things don't just and there it is. Of course, He can do it, but what are you going to learn if that does happen? So there's these things in our lives that we get to enjoy, and I love the fact that we get to enjoy all these things. My beautiful coffees over here that I get to enjoy every morning, house that you stay in, TV that you get to watch, computer that you get to use, cars, jobs, people that whose company you get to enjoy, going out, doing things, playing sports, hiking, running. These people that insist on running. What am I on about this morning? So the question that I have is, the Bible also says that in Colossians 3, it says, and whatever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not to men. And why am I on that this morning? So if you take something that you have in your life, if you have something in particular, and you remove it, or I remove it, or somebody remove it, it gets ripped out of your life completely in an instant. How does that alter your life? How does that change? Let me ask it this way. How does that change your will to go on, your will to live? Something you incredibly love watching. Some people say, let's say, binge watching series. Some people run flat out all the time. Uh, Computer gaming or console gaming, playing sports. If you had to remove that one thing that brings you the utmost joy in your life, if you had to remove it, does that alter your will to live? If you have to say yes to this question, and it's something you really need to think about, then you're in much more trouble than you might think. Because I realized this, and there's a few things in my life also I didn't realize that I realized this. Because in Exodus chapter 20, the very first commandment that God gives us in chapter 20 from verse 2, He says, I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, out of slavery. He says, you shall have no other gods before me. God is first. He says, you shall not make yourself a carved image in any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or on the earth, or in the water. You shall not bow down to them, and you shall not serve them. I am the Lord your God. I am a jealous God. And it would make sense. He made everything. So of course he gets to lay down this rule. And I'm thinking as well, my life was in shambles really in those times where God wasn't first. God wasn't number one. Now every time you don't put God number one and you make a decision for something else, you're idolizing that thing above God. Now I'm not saying that is your main idol in your life. Some people might have more than one. We could have plenty. Some people we all might not even be aware of many of these things that we have. But you got to start paying attention, especially if you're in a space in your life where things just don't seem to be going reg or lekker or whatever, because it might not be going well over here, but you're being bitten over here. If you understand what I'm saying, it's going terrible. I've got so much struggles at the job. People there are so toxic. People are so good. Yet over here, when I get home and I actually have the time to try and fix my heart and work on my heart, I sit and I I don't know, binge watch series or play games and stuff. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these things. Don't get me wrong. It's important to know, of course, we get to enjoy it still. It's the level. Don't rip it out of proportion. It's the level. Of course, you get to watch a series and you get to play a bit of game and do some sports and go running or whatever it is that you enjoy doing. Of course, you get to do it. What gives us these things to do? We're not meant to be puppets. That's why it's a choice to serve Him. But if you want to do it right, then get it right and pay attention to these things. Jonah warns us. He says, those who regard worthless idols forsake their own mercy. In Jonah chapter 2 and verse 8. He says, but I will sacrifice to you with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay what I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. Idols can't bring you freedom, my friend. My computer is not going to bring me freedom or salvation. Can't. Jesus saved us. God saved us. Habakkuk 2 actually asks a question. He says, what profit is the image that its maker should carve it? The molded image, a teacher of lies, that the maker of its mold should trust it. To make mute idols. What is the profit? What does the prophet do? If you make these idly things that can't move or speak or do nothing. A little beelkie that stand over there. Jesus also comes again. I love this verse. I love how Jesus just goes, they try and catch him out, and he just puts all the commandments and everything together, all the gospels, alles. When they ask him, what is the most important commandment? When there isn't more and less important when it comes to God. There isn't big serving and small serving, because God looks at your heart. Because I serve God 200% with my heart. I give Him everything I have, and I give it 2 rand. And that's my everything. And you give it 2 rand, but your everything is a 300 rand, as a small silly example in terms of money. Then I've given a lot more than you have, and your heart isn't where it should be. Do you understand what I'm saying? Lay your things, lay your own selfish desires aside and look for God, because God shapes you and He brings you out and He brings you to places and He gives you things. He does. But He needs to remain number one in your life. That's what the important thing is. That's why sometimes you get these massively awesome, magnificent things in your life and you go, yes, wow. And then all of a sudden in a fell swoop, it's gone. And I'm telling you now, if you sit and think about why that happened, it's because that thing became an idol. That thing became more important to you than God, and serving God and looking and going for God and running flat out for God. That's why it got taken away. I know that's why many things in my life started to get taken away at some stage, because this is it. I remember a time when I used to speak about gaming and like, oh, man, I love my gaming. I can't go without my gaming. I can't go without my gaming. And then this year, actually, I reached the stage where there was about easily almost 3 months. And now over Easter weekend, really, or the weekend just after, I think, was the first time this year I ended up playing a little bit of computer games. And it was so much fun. And I didn't realize up until this morning that in that time, God broke that idol away from me. I was idolizing it as well, to some extent. Where I'd rather sit and play games. But now I'm in a space where I incorporate everything. Even if I do sit and play games, I don't just fully... I'll put on some worship music in the background, or put on sermons that I listen to. So my ears are always busy, and God is always busy ministering to me. I'm not saying this is what you should do, but I'm just trying to give an example that this is how God, He broke that hold that thing had in me that I didn't even realize. And that's why I mentioned earlier that some of you might not even realize that this is the case with whatever the thing is that you have over there. But go to God and ask Him, say, Lord, show me. Show me if there's something that I place before you. We need to get the order right over here. You've got to get that scale right. God needs to be in the right place, my friend. He needs to be the most important thing in your life, because He is the greatest and best and most amazing. It's the most awesome relationship that I've ever been building in my life. And it's so much fun being there. In the midst of everywhere, you can sit and smile and have complete peace and contentment with the Lord, because the battle is His, because the earth and everything in it belongs to Him. So if things go wrong or doesn't look right in my side, I give the Lord. I tell Him, Lord, it's your business. So get down to a place. Ask God what's up and what's happening. And let's get the right thing. Let's get God to number one.